You walk into a cafe and see a stunning woman in her late 40s, laughing effortlessly. Next to her is a man, young, confident, maybe in his mid-20s, completely captivated by her. People stare, some whisper, some scoff. But what they don't know is the story behind that laughter. A story that started with a glance, turned into a connection neither of them expected, and changed both their lives in ways no one could have imagined. If you think you know what age gap relationships are really like, think again. Because this story, it's about more than age. It's about love, judgment, sacrifice, and truth. Stick with me. You won't forget this. Before we dive in, if you're someone who loves real stories that challenge the norm, break stereotypes, and dive deep into the human heart, hit that subscribe button. This channel is where we talk about what others only whisper, and this story, it might just be the one that changes your perspective forever. This story begins in a city where no one really has time to care about anyone until they see something that breaks their sense of normal. Her name was Elena, 48, divorced, successful. The kind of woman who wore elegance like perfume. Not loud, but unmistakable. She wasn't looking for love, not at this stage, not after everything she'd been through. His name was Kai, 26, ambitious, a freelance photographer chasing a dream he didn't fully understand yet. He wasn't looking for anyone either. He just wanted inspiration, a subject, a story. And yet, on a rainy Thursday evening, their worlds collided in a bookstore, not with sparks, but with silence. The kind of silence that makes you look up because something is pulling you, gently, insistently, toward a stranger who feels oddly familiar. What started as a conversation over a book turned into late-night texts, spontaneous adventures, and a connection that neither could explain, but both felt deeply. But as their bond deepened, the world around them sharpened. Judgment, whispers, assumptions. She's using him. He's only with her for the experience. It'll never last. He'll leave. She should know better. But what if none of that was true? Chapter 1. The Bookstore Glance. Elena stood in front of the biography section, running her fingers across the spines of titles she'd already read twice. She wasn't really looking for a book. She was looking for stillness. Her day had been long. Work meetings, polite smiles, another text from her ex-husband reminding her about their daughter's upcoming graduation, followed by a strange hollowness she couldn't explain. The bookstore had always been her escape. That's when she noticed him, Kai, sitting on the floor, legs crossed, reading an old photography book like the world didn't exist. His camera bag sat beside him, worn and patched with stickers from places he'd been, or at least wanted to go. He looked up for just a moment, just long enough for their eyes to meet, not long enough to speak, but something passed between them. Recognition, curiosity, a quiet magnetic pull. She smiled politely. He smiled back, and that could have been it, but it wasn't. Chapter 2. The Second Encounter. 2 weeks later, they saw each other again. Same bookstore, different aisle. This time, Elena spoke first. Back for more creative fuel, Kai laughed. Always, books are my caffeine. They talked. First about photography, then about favorite cities, then about how both loved walking aimlessly without a destination. What should have been 5 minutes turned into 45. Neither wanted to leave, so they didn't. They grabbed coffee across the street, and that was the first time Kai told her, "You have this stillness, like you're not rushing through life like everyone else." Elena blushed. She hadn't been complimented like that in years. not about her stillness, not about her. Chapter 3. A connection beyond age. Over the next few weeks, they kept running into each other, except they weren't really running into each other anymore. They were meeting, intentionally. The conversations got deeper. She told him about her divorce, about raising a daughter who now treated her like she didn't quite get it anymore, about feeling invisible since turning 45. He told her about dropping out of design school, about losing his dad at 19, about how he loved photographing people because it made him feel like moments actually mattered. They listened to each other like no one else ever had. Kai never made her feel older. Elena never made him feel immature. It wasn't about age. It was about energy, respect, curiosity. But the world doesn't always understand those things. Chapter 4. The First Judgment. They went to a gallery exhibit one evening. Kai had one of his photographs featured, a candid black and white shot of a couple dancing barefoot in the rain. Elena stood beside him, proud. He introduced her as a friend, but that word didn't feel right. Someone overheard. A young woman, maybe 24, gave Elena a quick up and down glance before whispering to her friend, not quietly enough, "Sugar mommy vibes." Elena's chest tightened. It wasn't the first time someone had judged her, but it was the first time it hurt in this way. Later, in the car, she asked Kai quietly, "Does it bother you that people stare?" He paused. "Let them stare," he said. "They don't see what I see." She looked at him, surprised. "And what do you see?" "You," he said softly. "Before the world told you how you're supposed to look or love or live, I see the real you." And just like that, something shifted. Chapter 5. When Love Begins to Show. By the time fall arrived, their meetings were no longer spontaneous. They'd moved past coffee dates and bookstore run-ins. Kai started showing up at Elena's apartment with his camera, taking candid shots of her while she read by the window or watered her plants. He said her face had stories no one had told yet. She cooked for him, her famous roasted chicken with rosemary and lemon, the kind of meal that fills a place with the smell of comfort. And he stayed over, not because of lust, though there was passion, but because when he was with her, he felt grounded, and when she was with him, she felt seen. Elena wasn't used to this, not the attention, not the gentleness, certainly not from someone his age. So one night, curled up under a blanket, she asked the question she'd been afraid of. "Why me, Kai?" He looked at her like the answer was obvious. "Because you don't make me pretend to be anything I'm not. And because when I'm with you, I feel like I've finally found peace." Chapter 6. The Daughter. Then came the first real test. Elena's daughter, Mia, was flying home from university for the holidays. She was 22, just 4 years younger than Kai. Elena debated whether to say anything, but she couldn't lie. She told Mia over the phone. There was a long pause. Then Mia said, "Are you serious?" Elena's voice was quiet. "Yes, I didn't plan it, but he makes me happy." Another pause. "Mom, he's my age." "I know. I thought that would matter, but it doesn't." To Mia, it did. She came home cold, distant. At dinner, she spoke to Kai but didn't look at him. When he complimented the food, she muttered, "Bet you don't get that in dorm cafeterias." Elena flinched. Kai smiled politely. He didn't fight, but afterward, Elena cried. "I didn't want to hurt her," she said. "You didn't," Kai replied. "You just stopped hiding your happiness." But the tension lingered. Mia left early. She didn't say goodbye to Kai. Chapter 7. The Dinner Party. A month later, Elena decided to introduce Kai to her friends. She figured if he was going to be a part of her life, he deserved to be seen, not hidden. It was a casual dinner, wine, laughter, conversation. But the subtext was thick. One of her friends asked Kai how old he was. He answered honestly, 26. Another friend joked, "So you were born the year we graduated college?" Everyone laughed, except Elena. She felt her chest tighten again. Later that night, after the guests had left and the silence filled the room, she turned to Kai. "I feel like I'm always bracing for judgment," she said, "even from people I love." Kai took her hand. "Elena, if you keep living for their comfort, you'll never find your own." Chapter 8. Breaking Point. The breaking point came one afternoon when Elena's sister called. She'd heard about Kai. The conversation wasn't kind. "Do you really think this is going anywhere?" her sister said. "He's having fun. You're filling a gap for him. But this won't last." Elena didn't speak because a part of her, deep down, feared that. Later that evening, she told Kai she expected him to pull away, but he didn't. He leaned forward, looked her dead in the eye. "Tell me what you're really afraid of." She paused, then whispered that you'll wake up one day and realize you deserve someone younger, someone with less baggage. He shook his head. "Elena, you're not baggage. You're a gift. I'm not here because I'm settling. I'm here because I chose you." That night, she let herself believe him. Not the world, not the critics. Just him. Chapter 9. The Escape. It was Kai's idea. He knew Elena had been carrying stress like a secret weight, tension in her shoulders, quiet sighs when she thought no one noticed, and that distant look she wore when the world got too loud. So he surprised her. A cabin in the mountains. Just the two of them. No internet. No opinions. No need to explain. At first, Elena hesitated. She hadn't done something so impulsive in years. But when she saw the spark in his eyes, that boyish kind of excitement, she said yes. The drive was long, winding, and filled with laughter. He played 2000s indie music. She made fun of his playlists, and they stopped for gas station hot chocolate that tasted terrible but made for a perfect memory. By the time they reached the cabin, the sky was velvet with stars. That night, in front of the fireplace, wrapped in a wool blanket and nothing else, Kai whispered, "I wish the world could see what I see when I look at you." Elena kissed him like she was trying to say thank you without words. Chapter 10. When silence speaks loudest. The next day they hiked. Elena hadn't hiked in years. She was out of breath halfway up, laughing at herself. Kai offered his hand, teasing her. "Come on, old lady." She smacked his shoulder. They reached the summit just before sunset. It was stunning. Endless layers of blue, gold, and orange folding over the earth. She sat beside him, quiet. Then, almost out of nowhere, she said, "Do you ever think about 5 years from now? 10?" He didn't respond right away. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because he wanted to get it right. "I think about now," he said first. "But yeah, sometimes I wonder." Elena turned toward him. "And what do you see?" Kai hesitated. "I see me, still chasing dreams. Maybe a family one day, a home, kids. I don't know." She looked down at her hands. "I won't be able to give you that," she whispered. And there it was. The truth that had been sitting between them like a shadow, neither wanted to name. Chapter 11. The Fear of Time. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed beside him, watching the way his chest rose and fell. He looked so peaceful, so young, and for the first time she wondered if loving him was selfish, if holding on to this was unfair to him, to herself. The next morning she didn't say much on the drive home, and neither did he, but both of them felt it. Something had shifted. Not love. Love was still there, but reality had caught up to them. Chapter 12. The Decision. A week passed, then 2. They saw each other less, not because they wanted to, but because they didn't know how to return to what they were before that conversation on the mountain. Until one rainy Thursday, a full circle, they met at the bookstore, just like the first time. Elena saw him first. He was in the same aisle, same spot. He looked up, smiled softly. She smiled back. He stood. "I was hoping you'd come." She walked toward him. "I almost didn't." He nodded. "I know." They stood in silence. Then she said it. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about the future." "So have I." "And?" Kai took a breath. "I still choose you, even if we don't know where it leads." Tears welled in her eyes. "But what if I hold you back from things you're supposed to have?" Kai shook his head. "Elena, loving you doesn't feel like missing out. It feels like arriving." And just like that, something inside her softened. Not because the fears were gone, but because love had grown bigger than fear. Chapter 13. 2 years later. The world didn't stop judging, but Elena stopped caring. She and Kai didn't make a big announcement. There were no matching t-shirts, no grand Instagram posts. They just lived. And that was enough. They traveled, they cooked, they danced in the kitchen barefoot at 2 a.m. They had lazy Sunday mornings with too much coffee and not enough plans. And somewhere between the everyday magic and the quiet nights, something amazing happened. Mia came around. One afternoon, unannounced, she showed up at Elena's door. This time, she hugged her mom without hesitation. "I still don't get it," Mia admitted, "but I see it. I see how he looks at you, and I see how happy you are. Sometimes people don't understand until they see love in motion." Chapter 14. The Photograph. Kai surprised Elena on her birthday. He handed her a large envelope. Inside was a black and white photo. It was her, sitting by the window, sunlight casting soft shadows across her face. She was looking away from the camera, half smiling, the kind of expression that wasn't for anyone else. Underneath the photo, in Kai's handwriting, it read, "This is the woman who taught me what timeless looks like." She cried, not because she was sad, but because in that moment she felt completely known. Chapter 15. The Unexpected Twist. Life isn't a movie. It doesn't wrap up with a perfect bow, but sometimes it surprises you anyway. One evening, Elena got a letter in the mail. It was from her ex-husband, apologizing, not for leaving, but for making her feel like her best days were behind her. He had seen her recent photo exhibit with Kai at the City Museum, and he wrote, "You always were the masterpiece. I just didn't have the eyes to see it then." Elena sat with that letter for a long time. Then she folded it, smiled, and tucked it in a drawer. She didn't need his validation, but it was proof. Proof that others were finally seeing what Kai had seen all along. Chapter 16. The Message to You. So now, maybe you're watching this thinking, you don't need to be 25 to be captivating. You don't need to erase your laugh lines or dye every gray strand. You don't need to chase youth to feel desired, because the right person, the real one, won't see your age as a number. They'll see it as a story of strength, of wisdom, of grace. They'll fall for your soul, not just your skin. And if anyone tells you that you're too old, too late, or past your prime, smile, because that says more about their limits than yours. Final words and call to action. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of your worth, or maybe gave you hope in a world that often forgets the beauty of women over 40, then don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. Tell me your story, your fears, your strength. Like this video if you believe in love that goes beyond appearances. Subscribe to this channel if you want more powerful stories like this. Stories that remind you just how magnetic you really are. This isn't just a channel, it's a movement, and you're a part of it now. Because beauty isn't defined by age, it's defined by presence, by courage, by love. And you, beautiful soul, have all three.